Now, from the University of Okoboji, it's Okoboji Broadcast with Jeff Thee.
Welcome to Okoboji Broadcast, everybody. I'm Jeff Thee. We're here at the beautiful Dickinson County Museum, and I have here with me today not only the director, Mary Dreier, good friend of mine for several millennia now. Clyde Ihrke is here with us. And
don't age us, Jeff.
Oh, boy, my goodness, guys, I'm so excited about this because this is something, and this happens with Mary and I a lot, Clyde, where she starts talking about something, and I've lived here 34 years, and you think, I've got a pretty good handle on the history of this area. I come in with her, and I find out just how much blank space I've got between my ears.
We have the history from maybe the 80s beyond.
Right.
She's going way back.
Evidently things happened before the 1980s around here.
See, and I don't know the 1980 plus
Well,
stuff. So.
We can fill you in on that.
Well,
Well, some of it.
I was going to say, please, not all of it.
But let's go back in time. She texted me this morning. I responded at 4 a.m., which she was bewildered why I was up at 4 a.m. And we're going to talk about the Howe Letters. And complete blank look on my face. I had nothing. And
because you had nothing because you've been on the beach in Florida.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's call a spade here, Jeff. You've been away.
There was a few brain cells that didn't come home with me. But anyway, the Howe Letters, because this predates. We often think, you and I were talking before we got going here, Mary, the fact that we often think of Abbie Gardner and after.
Yeah.
And here we have letters that predate that, and really the start of the city of Spirit Lake as well. So
exactly.
fill us in.
Exactly. I mean, I have to admit that I'm like everyone else who had this concept in my mind that there was the Spirit Lake Massacre, March 8th of 1857, and our history began then.
Right.
Okay.
And then people start coming, and yes.
Right. That's not true, and these letters bring that to life because these Howe letters that Kathy McNeil found predate the massacre. There were people in Spirit Lake planning the town of Spirit Lake, looking for land before the massacre.
Yeah.
And you talk about the massacre, and what I found in this, which was new to me, I mean, a lot of it, I knew of the massacre, like you say, but I also knew there was a group of men that came from a certain area to help get rid of the Native Americans at that time.
Right.
But this is even before that. This is when those groups were coming to Iowa to take over the land.
Yes.
Yeah.
And try and make a profit for themselves.
Exactly. That's what comes out in these letters, which I didn't understand before, is that these guys weren't just altruistic. They weren't just trying to bring folks to this beautiful area. They were here looking for land that they could flip, just like people flip houses now.
Sure.
They were looking for land to flip to make a big profit.
Right.
It's interesting to say that because, I deal a lot with developments in the town.
Sure.
Here. And you see these areas that get developed in town over the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
That's what these people were doing with a fresh area.
Yeah.
They were coming here to where there was just prairie land.
Yeah.
And like one of the letters states, Orlando's coming in and he was hoping to find all this timber that he could build these houses with. There was no timber, it was prairie.
Yes.
You find one little isolated spot, and if you don't jump on it right now, you're done. Somebody else is going to get it.
Yeah.
There's a quote in one of the letters, I can't place exactly where it is, but one guy bought was it 20,000 acres of land?
Yeah.
I mean, just an extraordinary amount of land.
Wow.
And there was this much timber on all of that land.
Yeah.
It was just prairie, and what folks wanted was timber.
Yeah, and these guys, Orlando's talks about it once where he thought he had a spot and he was going to jump on that the next day. By the time he got there, somebody else had snatched it up.
Wow.
It was going that quick.
Yeah.
So these letters really bring into focus that travel. The Howes moved here from Buffalo, New York area. And it's Orlando coming over first, leaving his family. Hard thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
But as you set up in these letters, you're going to see the passion that he had for starting that new life and for his family and his religious beliefs and for other people.
Yeah.
Because it brings it out as you go through these that later on these gentlemen that came to help get rid of that Native American, the massacres and things like that, you're going to see where he could have just easily said, nope, I'm done, I'm going back to my family.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He stayed there and helped those people out.
Even to the point that he was one of the first to discover the massacre.
Massacres, yeah.
Absolutely one of the first.
I was reading that where he's talking about the letter he wrote to his wife. Is that what it was? And I saw 4 or 5 bodies
piled on each other,
and one younger than our own daughter, and how emotional that was for him. Yes.
And he decided to stay in the area to go back to Fort Dodge and become a part of the troops that came to rescue any folks that could be rescued from that, or bury the dead. And what that meant is that he was away from his family for 2 more months.
Yeah.
And he did it because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. They don't drive from Fort Dodge up to here in 2 hours anymore.
No.
That took maybe 2 days,
Yeah.
to travel here.
Treacherous.
Treacherous 2 days. I mean, going through rough land and not knowing what to expect. And, there was another point in there where when they were trying to get the area cleaned up, it talked about one guy that was going to go off and do a little scouting, found himself in the middle of all these Native American tribes. Didn't get seen, was able to get out, but he saw where they're at, which helped them go in and help alleviate that.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
It's fascinating to read through them. It's just, and these are just a few of the letters.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where were the letters discovered?
Great question, Jeff. Great question. Kathy McNeil, our volunteer, who's a longtime resident of Spirit Lake, kind of started going down a rabbit hole of researching the earliest days and the earliest folks that were here in the area. And as part of her research into the people, she discovered a link to the Annals of Iowa that were online. And there were 4 editions of the Annals of Iowa that highlighted these Howe letters. These were published in the Annals of Iowa in 1934. So these haven't been seen for forever.
Right.
And Kathy and I were just amazed at these letters and how complete they are and how they really describe what things were like around here at a time most of us don't think there was anything going on here in Spirit Lake City. And by the way, it was called Spirit Lake City, not Spirit Lake.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you talk about those Annals of Iowa, and that was annals that were written by F.I. Harriet, which they were through a professor and everything else. He got those and said, "You do with what you want."
And actually, Clyde, F.I. Harriet was given these letters.
Yeah, by the Drake professor.
By the Drake professor who got them from the daughters and granddaughters of the Howes. So these have a direct link. And what's really cool is that Kathy and I were able to go to the State Historical Society in Des Moines a few weeks ago. And we got to see the files of all of these actual letters, and we got to touch them and hold them and read
physically,
them and take photos of them.
Didn't that bring it alive to you?
Oh my gosh.
In the handwriting on the paper that was written?
The actual letters.
Yes.
We couldn't believe how wonderful it was.
Yeah. Wow. So, on the founding of the Spirit Lake City, that's blowing me away right there. Mm-hmm. How did that take place?
But then when they heard of the big Spirit Lake, that's where they found some of that timber. So that's why they're going to do it. One of the letters describes that they had a fort here once in Spirit Lake now, which sits about right where the Catholic Church is, St. Mary's Catholic Church.
Yeah.
They had a fort there. So you set up a fort there. You think about that, Jeff, where the Catholic Church here in Spirit Lake, where it is, perfect spot to protect that lake.
Yeah.
To watch around that.
Yes.
They got the resource of the lake. They got the abundance of the wildlife in the area, and yet that fort right there. And then they started the city from there.
Yeah.
And actually, O.C. Howe built the first house in the city. And the city, Spirit Lake City, actually started around the area of where St. Mary's Catholic Church is now.
Do we know when it stopped being Spirit Lake City and became just that at some point someone said, that's too many letters. My letterhead is too big.
I don't. Do you know?
It didn't say anything in here. At some point, I suppose they said, "Well, you're right. Let's just get it to Spirit Lake."
Another rabbit hole to go down there.
Which there's many of them, I'm sure, because of the history in this area.
Yeah. What were both yours takeaway from the discovery of this, and what it brings to the knowledge of our area?
For me, it was interesting because this last year, the end of this last year, I was asked to be on the board for the museum. I said, sure, why not? It's one of those, the older you get, the more you like history.
Yes.
Growing up, you never did. Who cares?
Yeah, that's right.
We're making history, okay? Now you're more interested in it. So I got on the board, and when we did our big little get-together in January in one of the board meetings, we started talking about it, and Mary said, well, we've got these letters we're going to read. Would you want to read one of those? I thought, oh, a reader's theater. She goes, theater? What do you mean? What are you talking about? I said, I've had my experience with theater. So we got going on that.
Really? This is all new to me.
I got going with that a little bit, and we've turned it into a reader's theater. Maria, who is played by Marie Mathieson from Lake Park, her and I just did a play over in Lake Park this last year on Golden Pond.
Right.
And so we're looking for the female part to read those letters, and I said, I'll ask Marie. So I asked her, she said, sure. So we'll get back together and do that. But it's interesting for me to see this evolve because, like I say, I was never into it much, but now the more you read into these and the more times you read over it, you find those little tidbits that go, wow,
yeah,
that makes you think.
Yeah.
And how it just baffles me how these people had to live and didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
That one guy I said was kind of surrounded by the Native Americans at one time. As he was getting out, he had to stop at one spot, but he spent the whole night outside. Froze his feet.
Yeah.
His feet were frozen, but the next morning when it started getting light, he's off walking again.
Yeah.
What they had to live through is just unbelievable.
And hearing it in your voice and transmitting what was written
40 years ago?
Yeah. Brings it to a whole new life. Yeah. So, go ahead, Mary.
Yeah. What gets me right here in the heart is how hard it was for these first pioneers that came here. Orlando and Maria Howe were well-educated folks. They had a good life out east. Maria taught at a girls' school. Orlando was an attorney and also a teacher. They were living a pretty good life there, and yet they gave it all up to come here. In one of the letters, Maria talks about what she'd like to bring. Well, I'd like to bring one bureau if there's room, but I don't know if I have enough money because I only have $50, and we need this and this and this and this. And in a letter that isn't part of this production that we're doing, she talks about all I really need is a wood floor. Yeah. If I have a wood floor, I'll be okay. And who knows if she got the wood floor. She also talked about bringing rolls of paper, like wallpaper. To come. And I'm thinking, oh, honey, wallpaper on log walls, I don't think it's going to work.
It'd be a little lumpy. Yeah.
Right. It might be what they did, though.
Who knows?
And she talks about the house that they want to be in. She says if it's 2 rooms, perfect, she said. So you think it's a cabin that might have been 10 by 15.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But that's the way they lived it, and they knew they were going out on this treacherous adventure.
Yes.
And they knew what the possibilities could be.
Yeah.
But they still did it. They had that drive to come here to this beautiful area in the Hour Great Lakes.
But as she said, with the wallpaper and a wooden floor, she had expectations.
Oh, yeah.
She did.
But the reality was still to come.
Yeah.
Which is the interesting part.
And I haven't read a letter from her about the reality.
Ah.
Probably because she was here with Orlando then and didn't need to write the letters.
Yeah.
But I kind of wonder about that.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to find out, wouldn't it?
And just a little tidbit of info, the first child born in Dickinson County was their son.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, their son, the first one in Dickinson County, or in the county. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the county was their son.
Man.
Yeah. So we're talking early days.
You talk about your forefathers right
yeah,
there.
We really are.
Absolutely.
We really are.
So tell me about the Readers Theater, where and when it is, and where we can look forward to it.
Well, we're looking at March 19th.
Okay.
It's going to start at 7 o'clock. We're going to be down at the Pearson Lakes Art Center. We're going to be down in the lower...
In the Pomerantz downstairs?
Yeah, Yep. We're going to be up there in the little risers and get that set up, and then the audience out there. But it's just going to be a reader's theater.
Yeah.
There's going to be 2 of us with the narrator, and we're going to be reading. But we're going to try and bring that reading out.
Yeah.
I remember back when my girls were in school, and we always go into the classrooms when they're in grade school, and we could read to the class.
Yes.
And I loved doing that because I could bring it out,
Yeah.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit or whatever. But I want to express it so that these come out and the feeling goes into people to really understand that's when it is. So Lakes Art Center, down at Pomerantz Hall, 7 o'clock, March 19th.
Okay.
Yep.
And as everything at the museum, there is no charge for coming to this.
Okay.
We will, of course, however, have our hat boxes out afterwards for donations.
Yes.
So be prepared for that. And we hope you can all come. This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It's something we have never done anything like this before.
Yeah.
I was never involved in drama. I am so glad that Clyde and Marie have been, because they know how to do this stuff. And for Kathy McNeil, who put this together, wrote this, discovered the letters, she's never done anything like this before either, but it is fabulous.
Yeah. And it's amazing. The more I've read through these, we had a read through last night, and every time, like I said, something else comes out, and it just makes you feel like so much closer to what actually happened.
Yeah.
And what they had to go through. That just amazes me, what they had to go through.
Well, when I think about a Reader's Theater, it's as close as we can get in our generation to first-hand account to the beginning of this area.
This is first-hand.
Yeah.
These are primary sources.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Oh, so exciting. March 19th?
March 19th, be there or be square.
All right.
7 o'clock, Lakes Art Center.
Very good. My friends, thank you. Thank you for donating to this, your time and effort there, Clyde. And of course, Mary, always good to see you. and thank you for informing me of stuff I don't know. I mean, that's a big canvas to be working on.
This is just one part of what this museum is doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's phenomenal. You walk in here. If you never get a chance, walk in here. They've got a whole exhibit right here that's set up about the Native American area and the Abbie Gardners and all that. And there's some delicate stuff, but there's some real stuff here too.
We're very fortunate with who we have directing it, and board members, and of course volunteers, and the more and more people that are coming in here, whether it's for Way Back Wednesdays or whatever it is, to discover more about our area. So thank you again for being with me.
Thank you.
All right, again here from the Dickinson County Museum. You know what happens here? History comes alive, everybody. We want to thank Mary and Clyde for their time. We thank you for watching us right here on Okoboji Broadcast. Okoboji Broadcast from the studios at historic Arnold's Park Amusement Park is brought to you in part by West Wealth Management, a financial advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services. Advisor Jan Spielman, AJ Spielman, and Ihrke Wachholz. The headquarters of the University of Okoboji is at the Three Sons, open Monday through Saturday 10 to 5 and Sunday from 10 to 4. Bank Midwest, dream big, plan wisely, live well. Lakes Regional Healthcare and Avera Partner. Beck Engineering in Spirit Lake. Be Radiant Laser Skin Studio in the Okoboji Plaza in Okoboji.